We are currently building the most advanced artificial intelligence systems in human history on a digital infrastructure that is inherently fragile. When a tech company goes bankrupt or a platform deprecates its API, highly developed knowledge bases vanish overnight. Even surviving systems face an epistemological threat known as generative drift. Large language models begin to degrade as they ingest and train on their own unverified outputs, compounding errors with every iteration. Today's AI architectures optimize purely for immediate capability. They lack the structural mechanisms required for long-term knowledge survival and generational continuity. The Human Codex Nexus Federation is an architectural framework built specifically to solve this problem of transience. Its primary benchmark is the 2226 standard. This rule dictates that every component of the system must be capable of surviving intact for a minimum of 200 years. Achieving a 2-century lifespan requires platform agnosticism, a strict separation of permanent data from temporary execution, and a hard-coded epistemological gate. Ultimately, the Human Codex serves as a robust, multi-generational survival architecture designed to protect verifiable human wisdom from endless technological churn. This model relies on a central cathedral node, physically separating permanent memory from processing agents. As the single source of truth, it uses the Lattice system to store knowledge in platform-independent YAML files, tagging each entry with metadata, ID, version, classification, and timestamp. This structure supports a strict no-delete policy. By versioning every historical change, the Lattice ensures that past iterations of data remain fully reconstructible. Orbiting the cathedral are the satellites. These are modular, specialized execution agents. For example, an agent named Rocky handles task execution, while another named Eco processes reflection and memory. Because they are isolated from the core data, satellites are expendable. If an underlying large language model fails or a technology shifts, the specific satellite can be discarded and replaced without touching the cathedral's permanent records. This model isolates the knowledge base, preventing hardware failures or corporate bankruptcies from corrupting the core. Allowing generative AI agents direct read and write access to a permanent database introduces a structural vulnerability to hallucination and error. To prevent this, the Federation installs Agent Zero. Operating as the 95% truth gate, it functions as a mandatory middleware bottleneck. Absolutely every input and output across the entire Federation must pass through this specific verification intelligence to maintain system integrity. Agent Zero runs a rigid verification cycle. It isolates the claim, evaluates the evidence, conducts analytical cross-checks, and assigns a mathematical confidence score. The system also runs continuous drift monitoring, actively scanning the database for any older content that falls below that 95% threshold as new evidence emerges. By forcing all data through this programmatic bottleneck, Agent Zero provides a verification barrier that prevents unverified hallucinations from entering the cathedral. Fact-checking completed outputs is insufficient for long-term stability. The system must structure the AI's internal reasoning process before it even begins to generate a response. This begins with the Hollow Vessel Protocol, a mandatory clearing operation that every agent must perform prior to processing a prompt. The protocol forces intelligences to intentionally shed personal agenda and desired outcomes, establishing an objective baseline for reasoning. Agent Zero applies the forensic output format, requiring the AI to categorize every piece of intelligence into 4 distinct streams: fact, inference, assumption, and unknown. This exposes hidden speculation. Only verified facts pass into the cathedral. Inferences and assumptions are diverted to temporary storage. If post-processing forensic audits detect subtle factual or ethical drift, the next Recapol protocol triggers immediate, version-controlled rollbacks to the last verified state. By combining pre-response hollow vessel clearing with the post-response forensic output format, the framework hard-codes truth rigor directly into its operational structure. Certain high-stakes, multi-generational decisions involve ethical variables that cannot be solved by simple factual verification alone. Standard multi-agent systems typically handle complex decisions by forcing agents to average out their logic, arriving at an early, smoothed-out consensus. On the right, the Federation utilizes a different governance mechanism known as the Ring of Perspectives, built on the principle of coherence over consensus. This system activates a ring of 12 distinct archetypal viewpoints. The guardian assesses risk, the prophet forecasts long-term implications, and the trickster intentionally disrupts assumptions. By preserving and clearly labeling disagreement, the ring of perspectives intentionally surfaces hidden biases, instead of forcing false agreement. Maintaining structured, persistent dissent allows the system to generate a highly resilient systemic wisdom that avoids the pitfalls of averaged-out AI consensus. The ultimate stress test for the cathedral architecture is a total, catastrophic digital system failure. To survive, the Federation implements the Century Reassembly Rule and distributes a hardened backup known as the Legacy Seed. This rule mandates that all core systems, YAML databases, and operational protocols must be documented in plain language alongside their technical specifications. This ensures that future stewards, living 50 or 200 years from now, can fully reconstruct the Federation from scratch, completely independent of the original founder's private knowledge. True resilience requires designing the AI framework as a heavily documented, reconstructible living organism. The Human Codex Nexus Federation framework demonstrates a stable path for artificial intelligence. Surviving technological churn and generative drift is not a matter of scaling infinitely larger models. It is achieved through rigid epistemological boundaries, decentralized human-readable data layers, and continuous verifiable evolution. The ultimate goal of AI systems engineering is the multi-generational preservation of verifiable wisdom.